Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. I'm Wade T. Lightheart from Bioptimizers with another edition of the Awesome Health Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the importance of detoxification, functional medicine, and Ayurveda. And our guest today is Dr. Alejandro Junger, MD, who is an LA-based cardiologist, founder and medical director of the Clean program, and best-selling author of Clean and Clean 7. He graduated from medical school in Uruguay, where he was born. He completed his postgraduate training in internal medicine at New York University Downtown Hospital and a fellowship in cardiovascular diseases at Lenox Hill Hospital before studying Eastern medicine in India. He is an expert in gut health and nutrition, incorporating functional medicine and Ayurveda in a combination of ancient and modern wisdom. Becoming a patient inside the very system he was practicing was such a shock that it started his journey in search of an alternative solution to his health problems. After his medical training, Dr. Junger studied Eastern medicine in India. He has been called the father of detox, and his Clean program is followed by people worldwide, including dignitaries, A-list celebrities, and media personalities. Today, he's going to sit down with us for a few minutes out of his busy schedule so that we can connect and find out his journey of both science, Western, and medical intervention, and how a breakthrough moment in his introduction to Eastern philosophy allowed him to develop the Clean program today. Dr. Alejandro, welcome to the Biohome and the Awesome Health Podcast.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's so great. It turns out we're neighbors, and that's pretty awesome. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be here. We did the introduction, but you have a unique story. You were from Uruguay and you've kind of gone through the medical model, and now you're as a vascular surgeon. You want to talk a little bit about your background and how you got into the field?
I was born in Uruguay in South America, and life there was very simple. There were no supermarkets with all kinds of edible things, And we used to go to the farmer's market around the corner from my house. My dad would choose every fruit and teach me, how to touch them and smell them. And life was very healthy by default.
Yes.
We used to eat as a family, and lunch, dinner would last for hours. And I used to be into Taekwondo. I was a black belt. I competed. So life was really healthy. Then I went to medical school. And when I graduated medical school in Uruguay, I moved to New York. And my life completely changed. Not only I was alone, I was working all day long, sometimes 3 days in a row on call in those times. And I was eating from hospital cafeteria, from vending machines, from the bagel shop across the street. And when I had some time, I went to a supermarket. I was like a Aboriginal in the city.
Right.
Everything was like, wow. And I get this box and I can put it in a microwave, and then in 2 minutes I can get something that looks like and even kind of smells like what my mother took all day to cook, Right. And I started gaining weight, and I started experiencing allergies and difficulty digesting, which became a nightmare of bloating, diarrhea, constipation, pain, Allergies became from seasonal to all year round ordeal, and I couldn't function anymore. But the most concerning problem I had was depression. I couldn't get out of bed. Wow. And when you looked from outside, on paper, my life was amazing. But yet, I had this sense of doom, So I started looking for a solution for my problems. And of course, I'm at that time a fellow in cardiology in one of the top centers in New York, Lenox Hill Hospital, affiliated at that time with NYU. So I go to my colleagues, to a gastroenterologist, to a psychiatrist, and to a allergist. And I took a day off, and I went to see all these specialists, and ended up the day basically with 3 diagnoses and 7 prescription medications.
Wow.
Irritable bowel syndrome, severe allergies, and severe depression. Antidepressants, antispasmodics, antiemetics, anti-nausea, it was like a cocktail of pills that I had to take 3 times a day in order to function. And I am already a doctor, so I know that all these things physiologically don't correct any of the problems at the root. They just block the reactions of certain symptoms to occur, right? So I know that. I get home, I look at the 7 prescriptions, and I decided at that time, this is not for me, even though this is what I'm doing for my patients, right? So that put me into a conflict of many dimensions. Right? What am I doing?
Right.
This is the medicine that I'm going to refuse, and I'm going to continue practicing. It didn't make sense. So basically, I took off to a monastery in India because I had an experience with this meditation teacher, which showed me something that I really wanted.
What monastery, if you don't mind me asking, or what teacher you want to?
They don't like.
They don't like the reference. That's fair enough.
They don't like, but honestly, I don't see why this could harm anybody. It was the monastery of a teacher called Swami Chitvilas Ananda, or simply known as Guru Mai.
Yes, I knew who that is. I had a friend that was a disciple of Guru.
Who was a disciple of Muktananda, who was a disciple of Nityananda. I mean, there's a big lineage.
Correct.
And then he made, but
I had a similar experience through a different lineage going to India. So yeah.
So I basically had an experience of a brief episode of complete silence of the mind, and therefore complete presence to a point that I've never experienced before. But in me, something new, that this is really the state that we came here to be in. And somehow we lost it, we lost our path, right? And we're all asleep looking for stuff and suffering, But in that moment, I realized that this is a possibility, that I could live in this state that happened to me spontaneously in my interactions with this meditation teacher. And that's what I really wanted. So dropped everything,
right.
Refused like really amazing offers to join busy, important cardiology practices.
Your colleagues are wondering, what are you doing?
Oh, one of them, who's my mentor and teacher and that I adore, one of the best cardiologists in the world, Dr. Ronnie Shimoni in New York. He's one of the heads at Mount Sinai. I mean, but even though he practices really traditional, not traditional because modern conventional allopathic Western medicine, and he's at the forefront. He's really open-minded, but his heart is just, people, you sit with him as a patient. He comes and sits on the bed and he grabs your hand. And I could see the transformation of patients just by talking to him. But he really thought that I was wasting my talents, by doing all these things. But then years later, we met again, and I showed him the power of what I've learned, actually with his own sister, right, who was having problems that she couldn't get resolution for, right? And then he opened his eyes, said, "Oh my God, you're onto something," right? So every now and then he talks to me about it, but yes, that's what happened to me. I ended up in India, really going there to learn how to silence my mind and become fully present. I learned a bunch of things.
How long did that take you from that diagnosis to kind of come to the conclusion that you're going to go to India? And then how long was that till you kind of came back into the Western world, if you will?
So I didn't understand what was happening until my experience with Guru Mai. And because I never had the power of completely becoming the observer and really something that's within you, but also it's more than the thinking mind and the ego and So through my experience with her, in which she just touched me, and something happened. Suddenly, I understood that everything that the thought that I was thinking, I wasn't thinking.
Right.
it was just happening. But I was identified with it. So it's me, you know.
Right.
And the moment that I saw that, I said, this is my way out of jail.
Yeah.
So I've been digging the tunnel, you know, to go to and live just as the observer. But then life happens and you realize your limitations. And the fact that this is probably a battle that's minute to minute for the rest of my life.
Correct. Yeah, that's so true. I think some people, what's the old saying? Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop, carry water. And of course, when you get these kind of peak experiences that initiate transformation, there's often a period of chaotic, as the cup gets stirred up, and then as things settle, then there's a new place. And
Abraham Maslow called it the
Yes.
spiritual crisis, right?
Correct. And so, where did things settle out for you upon your return? What?
So upon my return, I had to look for a job.
Right.
But I could only be hired in an underserved area because I didn't have a green card.
Okay.
I had come here with a student visa that had expired when I graduated as a cardiologist. So I looking for a job, I found an underserved hospital in Joshua Tree.
Wow, what a great place to land.
Yeah.
Yogananda, the guru out here, was I've spent a lot of time in Joshua Tree to do his final writings.
So it's called the High Desert Medical Center, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor that hired me to work there also made me or asked me to work in Palm Springs, in Rancho Mirage, in Desert Hot Springs, in Indio, this hospital.
That whole area, yeah.
That whole area, right? So I was basically for 4 years running around like a chicken with no head, following my beeper from hospital to hospital, putting pacemakers and intravenous lines and, you know, and running intensive care units. And then every advancement or every progress or whatever you want to call in the ladder of being, right? Being present and being healthy and started deteriorating again. Mm-hmm. Because now I was back eating hospital cafeterias and running like a chicken with no head, right? Until one day, a friend of mine who I had seen 10 days before in his usual bloated, inflamed, red, gray eye, state, comes to Palm Springs, knocks on my door by surprise. When I opened the door, I was like, wow, what did you do? His eyes were white, clear. His skin was glowing. All the redness, had gone. And he was more present. Not fully, but more than before, right? So I'm like, whoa, what do you do? He said, I went to a detox center. I said, I didn't know you were on drugs. He said, no, not that kind of detox. Come. And he took me to a place in Palm Springs. It's a little, an hour big detox center that people come from all over the world. Mm-hmm. It's called the We Care Spa. I became friends with the owner, who's from Argentina, so we speak the same language. And I became really curious about what she was doing because for me, nothing speaks louder than results.
Right.
And when you see people that get results, then I want to find out what they're doing.
Yeah. The student of excellence.
So I saw all these people there and spoke to them, and one, had an autoimmune problem and had been coming there for 3 years, and that life had completely changed, and the other one had this and that and cancer. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? So she said, why don't you come and stay here for a week and do the program? I said, I can't be here for a week, but I can come before and after work every day. So I did that, and in 10 days, my depression was over, my irritable bowel syndrome was a memory of the past. And my allergies were completely gone, and I lost and weight, and I looked and felt 10 years younger, to the point that everybody wanted to know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. At that time, the hospital where I was working in Palm Springs had just hired a world-renowned heart surgeon to create kind of like a Mayo Clinic of the desert, right?
Right.
Dr. Stephen Gundry.
Oh, wow. We just had him on the podcast recently.
And he was there because he's ambidextrous. He operates on adults and kids. He invented a way of stopping the heart. They hired him. We joked about it, the $6 million man, right? They paid $6 million for his transfer from Loma Linda.
Uh-huh.
And he became interested. He said, "What are you doing?" So that's how he started on all this work, by looking at me, talking to me, and a few things that I showed him. And he started getting interested. His wife ended up going to WeCare and getting rid of chronic problems. And then he opened his eyes. And then his mind is brilliant, so he took it, But yeah, we met at that time. So that was my path, Through this woman, I learned the concepts and practices of detoxification. But since I was learning it in this place, that was a spa, and just juices and colonics, and it was a little hokey pokey, But you cannot argue with results.
Right.
Since I hadn't learned all that in medical school, it felt weird to me. And this language that they use, I was reading books, Arise and Shine, and this and that, and I was like, give me a break. All these tree-hugging people in my
scientific training.
Train on mine, But yet it made so much sense. Many of the things that 5 years before would have been complete rubbish to me, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Just rings true, Started on that path. Still, it was a little bit of a mystery to me. How can these things be happening? How can these people be, So I started experimenting. And then one day I ended up at the Institute for Functional Medicine doing the AFMCP, Applied Functional Medicine in Clinical Practice, right? And then I understood, wait a minute, I already know all that's happening here because I learned it in medical school. What I didn't learn is put these things together to explain it in a different way. And I'm going to explain what I'm talking about. I had learned about the kidney, about the liver, about the lungs, about the lymphatic system, I had learned about all these things in detail, right? But I never thought of it as all of these belonging to a bigger system that functional medicine calls the biotransformation and elimination system, right? Detox system. So yeah, these are all things that I knew, but never put together, right? Mm-hmm. So what functional medicine did to me was, with all the knowledge that I had learned in medical school and all the practice, all the experience that I had, it just reordered my library and made me see connections that I wasn't seeing before, right? And through understanding that, I became the doctor that I am today.
How beautiful, especially considering, coming from sort of a natural living environment, this things where everything is simple, and then going into the complexities and the compartmentalizations which is required of a specialist, running into your own challenges, coming back, getting outside of that, beyond the mind or the meticulousness, coming back and then tying these two things seemingly unrelated into a unified picture. What was that like for you when the light bulb went off? You seeing
more than one light bulb. It's a 10,000 connecting one, and then one day you wake up and you realize that your worldview has gotten more sophisticated. Right? Yeah, change, but you still understand what you understood before, but now you added layers of dimensions, right? That connect everything. So it wasn't like an aha moment. The aha moment was when Guru Mai slapped my chest. And what I know now is I became fully present. So I had a sneak preview of enlightenment.
Yes. Yeah, and then that takes a whole lifetime to unravel.
Of the state in which I imagine Buddha, Christ, Moses, all these spiritual giants must have been in, right? In which, at that moment, there was no. Right now I'm having an experience of sitting with you. I'm moving my hands because I'm expressive, right? Yes. You are very quiet and listening and engaged, right? But I know right now that all this is happening through my organs, and I'm looking at you through my eyes. I'm speaking to you with my mouth, right? I'm listening to you with my ears. But at the moment when I went into that state, there wasn't any of that.
Correct. Yeah.
It was, it's very difficult to explain, but I was everything. I wasn't just this.
Yes.
I was everything and everybody. And there was no present, past, and future. It was just now. What you read in books, the only thing that exists is the present moment.
Transition of
I had not understood that at all until I had the experience.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's understandable.
It's not understandable.
You know what I mean?
It's like the taste of a strawberry.
Yeah.
How can I explain it to you? You can't.
Yeah. And now, of course, so many people think they're eating a strawberry, but it really aren't, which is another...
The woke movement.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, the problem is that humans are getting smarter and smarter and connecting more things, and there's more information. So we talk about things more accurately and convincingly, but I don't care how much you talk about it. If you ain't in that state yourself, you're not going to be able to explain it to me, right?
Beautifully said. Which leads you to your career now, which is a fusion of the scientific, medical, westernized training with this Eastern philosophical realization and the integration of these two processes. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing today to kind of service the world and unifying these, what seem to be opposing aspects, which from a different perspective are synergistically fitting together?
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: supercharge your protein shake. Everyone knows protein shakes are a great way to sneak in extra protein, build more muscle, even replace meals and burn more fat. The problem is the highest quality protein typically absorbs at around 40%. One way to fix this and dramatically increase how quickly and effective your protein shake digests is to add 2 to 3 capsules of Masszymes into your shake. One research study showed that pre-digested protein during a meal increased muscle growth significantly. To take advantage of this, just blend the open capsules into your shake, and within 15 minutes or less, the enzymes will have begun to break down the protein into amino acids. This can make your shakes at least 2 to 3 times more potent. Some people do this and sip on their shake while lifting to provide their muscles with a steady stream of amino acids during their workout. To save 10% on Masszymes, use the code SHAKE10, that's SHAKE10, at Masszymes.com. That's SHAKE10 at Masszymes.com.
Yeah. So from the moment in which I had that experience of a sneak preview, I've been working at times more intensely, at times less intensely, at times not at all. But in the 10 years, last 10 years, I could say that more than not, I've been working on myself, becoming more present,
right,
in different ways, right? Now, as that happens, my interests go changing, right? So what I become interested in is different. So I became interested in the power of plants, not only nutritionally and supplementally, but also spiritually, right? So I've been exploring and experimenting with ayahuasca and wachuma, mushrooms, I mean, you name it, right? So I find things kind of like that heal me, and then I share.
The ethnobotanical movement is pretty extraordinary in its historical aspects, but it's now caught the interest of modern man because there's a malaise, which I think you beautifully illustrated, permeating the culture with all the technological innovations, it seems as if this human physiology isn't capable of keeping up to it exposes the flaw within consciousness itself, which expresses as dis-ease in the body, in the mind, in the physicality, in the emotions, in the heart, whatever you want to look at that.
I also understand from my own perspective that when you look at the world today and you see the pandemic of chronic disease, chronic illness, of inflammation, cancer, autoimmune disease, brain fog, diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular problems, this is what's killing humanity. But more than that, this is what's making humanity suffer. Yeah. My mom is in the hospital right now. She's been there for 2 weeks in an intensive care unit on a ventilator. I know what people are going through. You know, this is my mom. This is the love of my life, you know, who gave me life, and I owe her everything. And I, as a doctor, can have very little influence of what's happening inside of a hospital that I used to run before. Wow. Right? So what a trip. Yeah, so what I do is I go there. They don't let me in now because she's in COVID isolation, right? Even though this is not a case of COVID. She had a heart attack with a valve rupture, right? And I talk to the nurses and I tell them about my mom, and I show them pictures of my mom when she's, you know, in all her glamour. So because I know that in an intensive care unit, especially when there's an elderly person, you know, they get a little neglected because there's younger people that you want to keep alive and stuff, right? But I want to show them, you know. So this is spiritual work that I'm doing. You know? Anyways, what I understand now from a big perspective about the disease of the planet, right? And I'm going to give you an illustration because I think people, when they think about it this way, is very useful. I believe the planet Earth is like an animal in itself. It's a live animal. And from here inside, you see, that's a building, that's a person, that's a dog, you know. But when you see it from outside, it's kind of like just an animal, right? Your cells in your skin, they don't think of themselves as two different individuals, you know. Mm-hmm. They think of themselves as skin, and the skin thinks of itself as a human. The planet is an animal. The river are the arteries. The forest are the lungs. The water is the amniotic fluid. And the humans and all the other animals are cells and tissues of this planet. So you and I are like to the planet, like two red blood cells are to you.
Yes.
Right? And now red blood cells have a function. They carry oxygen from high concentration places to low concentration places, capture and release it, right? We, as cells from this planet, have a function, right? Which is the transformation of energy. Yeah, we get energy from our impressions, right? What you see, what you smell, what you touch, what you taste. We get energy from oxygen, right? From the air. So first floor, second floor, and then from the food, third floor. And these three types of energy collide into your physiology, which is your experience in life. Depending on what experience you're experiencing or what state you're in, it's going to be very beneficial or very prejudicial for the planet, right? So we are like red blood cells that are not letting the oxygen go. And we're not transforming these energies into peace and love and presence. We're transforming them into greed and anger, right? So the planet is sick, one of its cells. You know, imagine if your red blood cells were not doing its function. The whole body is sick. The planet has a very important kind of cell that's not doing its function. It's actually kind of cancerizing and metastasizing and killing everything else around, right? So how are we doing that? Through the comfortable life that we created, which makes it toxic, right? We're not eating food anymore. We're eating edible products, cosmetics, the architecture, Everything is contributing to a bombardment of chemicals. And there is a system in the body that can deal with that. The detoxification or biotransformation and elimination system from functional medicine lingo. But just like you know how to exercise in a certain way and eat in a certain way so that your biceps grows, which we were talking about before, there's a way in which you do things and eat things in which your detoxification system gets moving stronger, right? But we, in our lifestyles, are doing the opposite. So our detoxification systems in general, as a population, as a species, is underworking, blocked, by lack of nutrients, by lack of energy. Because when you're always digesting, detoxification goes down and consumption of energy goes up, right? So we are putting our detoxification system, because of our lifestyle, in a big pickle, while we're throwing more and more toxins.
Right.
And we have to do that. We have to teach people that there is a detoxification system, how to enhance its function, and at the same time we need to get rid of all the toxins, right? So that I see as one of the biggest problems of humanity today. That's why I decided to write a book about it and created a company to provide people with the tools needed to do a detox program that really works. Because, not all detox programs are created equal.
Right. So tell us about that program. How did you come about it? Who's it for? And what's its primary principles?
So when I was sick, right, during my fellowship, until much later, maybe 15 years later, I was looking for the way to get back.
Right.
Once I was back, I said, I wish I would have known these things back here.
Yeah, because there's a lot of experimentation there.
Hundreds of hours and
Right.
places and thousands of dollars and traveling and thousands of miles flown,
Yeah, I know that.
and people mad and things that didn't work. So once I said, oh my God, I know, because I started doing it with my friends, my family, and then my patients. And then once I was like, and it was as if finding a magic wand. Once I started getting all these results and people coming, and then some of them said, listen, you need to scale up, you need to make this available. That's when my program became a company, and right.
So tell us about the program.
The program is a set of things that you do, right, having to do with food, supplements, and activity that create the conditions for your body to work its detoxification system at maximum efficiency for optimal health, right? Because I believe that functional medicine talks about distinguishes 7 systems, right? The communication systems, hormones and nerves, the cardiovascular system or transport system, the hormonal or communication system, the defense and repair system, the immune system, the detoxification system, and they all have to be kind of equalized, because any system will affect other systems, right? What happens is, imagine the other 6 are trying to keep, and this one is here. Everything is going to be messed up, right? So just doing that helps 60% of the people that I see with all their problems, their health issues. Right? So I said, how can I make this more available? I'll make it simple, right? So basically it's about decreasing the workload of the digestive system and decreasing the activation and need of the body to keep on the inflammatory system, right? By reducing the workload of the digestive system during breakfast and dinner, replacing the solid meals with a liquid meal that's easier to digest, eliminating from the shake in the morning and shake at night and the solid lunch at midday, eliminating all the foods that are known to cause all kinds of reactions. Acidity, mucus forming, fat retaining, there's many things that we eliminate. Also allergenic foods, right? And then doing that for 21 days, plus certain supplements to enhance liver detoxification, like silimarin, to plant some good bacteria in your gut as probiotics. So there's a few supplements that also help. The results are just unbelievable.
That's beautiful. And how long have you been using this program and bringing it out to your clients?
So we opened the company 11 years ago.
Can you share the name of the company?
Clean.
Yes.
The Clean Program. That's the name of my company. The Clean Program now has a 21-day flagship program, which is known all over the world. The book has been translated to 26 languages. Amazing. Yeah. And this program is really transforming people's lives. When you buy the book, you don't need to buy any supplements. I tell you how to go to the supermarket and do everything by yourself. But a lot of people cannot do that.
Right.
So then we also sell a kit, right? That helps you with the shape.
Simplifies, makes it easy.
Simplifies, make it easy. Of course, everybody say, oh, well, we're doing products. You're talking about edible product. Well, this is better than the crap you buy and this is just in the hope that it's a step towards a life in which you will value these things and go to the supermarket and prepare your own food, right? So that's what we do with the company.
How often do you think, I would say, if you're looking at a 21-day clean program versus maybe what's happening on a day-to-day basis, how much focus or attention does the average person need to put on detoxification in their lives?
Well, see, I wanted to be able to give an introduction to the most people possible. So I don't make it very strict, right? Mm-hmm. There's a list of foods that you can and cannot eat, and there's a shake in the morning, a shake at night, and some supplements. If you do just that, you will get results. Right. If you in the middle also do some sauna and maybe a little bit of stretching and massage. I mean, there's always ways of enhancing detoxification, yes. Not only at the level of the body, but also at an emotional and mental level with meditation or activities that put you in a meditative state, right?
One thing I've noticed, and I'd love to have your insight working with so many people as you have, is the connection between the detoxification of the physical body and then what happens maybe in the emotional or psychological components.
So this is really interesting. I think you're going to dig this idea, right? Mm-hmm. In Ayurvedic medicine, thousands of years ago, yes, they did not distinguish between mental, emotional, and physical toxicity. In fact, they're all called under an umbrella name, AMA, A-M-A, right? Some people say A-M-M-A. This is a Sanskrit word that encompasses toxic elements, right? Mm-hmm. And they have mental, emotional, physical. Now, what is the relationship between them? Ultimately, we're just energy, right? So whatever vibration your physical body is, in as a mean average, is going to attract thoughts and emotions, yes, or is going to help them be released and generated by whatever machinery it is that's doing it in the body.
Would it be fair to say that it's almost as if it's an electromagnetic attraction?
It is an electromagnetic at one level.
At one level, and one of the things I think a lot of people in the West have a hard time grasping is that we're so focused on the biology, the physiology is a viewpoint. You're this much water, you're this much minerals, and then these systems work like this. Yet, if you dive into the physics of it, it's mostly empty space. And if you go down deep enough, it's simply waves. And so what
and deeper, nothing.
Right. So we're mostly nothing, which are waves, which show up as physiology, which feels as thoughts and emotions. And we can feel and go and talk about them. And I know how I feel. Maybe I have a great thought. I feel joyful. I feel happy. Like, what is love? Like, why does the sunset over the beach look beautiful? Why do I call that beautiful? What is going on inside my physiology that is resonating with something 97 million miles away?
When you start understanding those things, then you start understanding the influence of other forms of energy. Right? Like, for example, the power of plants, as medicine, right, is because you're not only eating the vitamin and the mineral and the fiber and you're eating an intelligence. You're eating a frequency of vibration that then will inform your frequency of vibration. Because there's this phenomenon of resonance. If I scream very loud and this, which is solid, will try to vibrate at the same frequency, and then it will shatter. The plant that's in your blood will affect your genes in different ways by closing their expression or opening their expression or modulating. Right. So it's an energetic frequency effect that we don't think of. We only think of the vitamin and the mineral, the phytonutrient, the antioxidant, right? But the power of plants is really the pranic power of plants. Right. The intelligence, the information it brings in the form of vibration that really changes your physiology.
And as an amateur student of Ayurvedic medicine, I had the opportunity to sit with a traditional Ayurvedic farmer. I was actually just talking about the other day. And he was explaining to me, we were at a conference in India, and there was all these Ayurvedic practitioners who didn't look very healthy. And he came up and he says, well, the problem is they're not practicing Ayurveda. Well, I said, well, that's all they've been talking about. He goes, no. If you go back to the original text and you go back to the growing of the plant and the planting of the season and all the stuff, he says, the plant root needs to be at least 6 feet deep in order to get the energetic component, and they're only going at 3 feet, so they're not really practicing Ayurveda.
10 years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to somebody in India who opened a company in India because they were looking for a powerful Ayurvedic plant, but they were finding that nobody was planting them and harvesting them in the way that it should be done, until he found an old Ayurvedic medicine master who was also an MD, who he planted Ayurvedic plants for his patients in his garden because he couldn't find any other plant that had the potency. So this guy convinced this doctor to take the know-how and expand it, and that's how this company Organic India was created.
Wow, amazing!
So I am now partners with them. They own half of my company, Clean, and I am their medical ambassador, and we are collaborating because, for example, I came up with a 7-day program. The 21-day program, which is based on functional medicine, then I added, because I wanted to accelerate, not everybody can do 21 days. I wanted to give people results in 7 days. But if you do it the regular way, 7 days is when you're feeling the worst, even maybe worse than before. And so I wanted to give people our results in 7 days to inspire them to continue, right? So what I did is I mixed elements of Ayurvedic medicine and intermittent fasting, and in 7 days I get incredible results.
Wow, that's
right?
beautiful.
So that's my Clean 7 program, and I wrote a book about it too. And I wrote a book about and in this book about how all these concepts of Ayurvedic medicine, functional medicine, intermittent fasting work together.
Beautiful. I know there's a great tradition in detoxification through Indian philosophy, Panchakarma, and of course, the one that I'm really looking forward to working out the principles from a Western perspective, of course, is the Kaiva, I think it's Kalpa, which is the complete regeneration of tissue, which was practiced at what was considered the golden ages of India. I read about it in one of Yogananda's books. It's a small excerpt, and I've been fascinated with the conceptual ideas of that for life. I love the fact that you've been able to find partnership with product quality, because that's something that with Bioptimizers that we're meticulous about people will say, well, why is this product cost $100 when what looks like the same is only $20? Well, it's because of how it was grown, how it was harvested, how it was stored, how the extracts were done, how were those...
It takes more time, takes more manpower, takes, for example, they don't bottle anything in plastic bottles. It's all glass bottles, right? Because Ayurvedic herbs lose potency. So that is also a little more expensive. It adds up. At the moment, to really find the great stuff, sometimes, or most of the times, it's a little more expensive. Yeah. But with dissemination and changes in the markets, I think that they may come down if more people start using it.
My mentor who transformed me with my digestive health issues after the Mr. Universe contest is what got me into this. And I gained 42 pounds of fat and water in 11 weeks and then rediscovered and rebuilt my digestive system 20 years ago using enzymes, detoxification, herbs, probiotics, these types of things.
Who was your mentor?
His name was Dr. Michael O'Brien. And he was famous for helping Bernard Jensen recover from metastatic cancer when he was 85 years old. And they were friends. And so he instructed me and got us, Matt and I, on that pathway. And what was interesting is I had a high level of external performance capabilities in the world of, hey, you look a certain way, you're able to do this, you have this aesthetic recognition. Yet I had missed this whole internal medicine piece. And once I got it, once I understood it, and the only way to understand it is to experience it. Otherwise, it is here.
Yeah, and listen, for bodybuilders, I think bodybuilders build and have an incredible ability to search for these things, right? And I'll share with you, because I think you're gonna dig this. There was a point in which I was depressed and looking for solutions and saw those doctors and got, antidepressant. I went to a personal trainer who had a six-pack, and I think, what do I need to do to do that?
I've had that question many times.
So he's like, well, you have to forget about everything. And then he started introducing me, to amazing reading, like Dan Duchaine.
Yes.
And all that he did with hormones and stuff.
Yes.
And how it's because of him that keto came to be so, the whole keto movement comes from his underground body opus diet. And he put people in ketosis because he knew that decompensated diabetics, type 1 diabetics that went into ketoacidosis were the leanest people in the world.
Yes.
That was an observation that he had. And then so he wanted to recreate that and the results that he got were incredible. So I wanted to show you what I was able to do with all that information.
Amazing.
Yeah, I didn't look exactly like you in that picture, but check it out. So I know in my flesh what it is.
That's awesome.
To have the discipline, to eat in a certain way, to do certain exercises. So I already had the experience of transforming one system of my body into a much better functioning system by eating in a certain way and doing certain things. The same concept when you apply it to any system.
Correct.
And the detoxification is no different. That's why I get a little bit when all these Harvard-trained nutritionists and they say, oh, detoxification, that's a fad. It's useless. The body already knows what to do. And, that's like telling the bodybuilding work, oh, the whole muscle thing, it's a fad. The body already knows what to do. You don't need to go to the gym, right? Detoxification is actually what could save humanity in this moment. Learning how to detoxify yourself and enhance your detoxification system, and at the same time, detoxifying the planet.
Yeah, the hallmark of ignorance is hubris. And that, I know that. Well, do you? It's always a question. Unfortunately.
If it's I know that, great. But if it's that idiot is a quack because of what I'm going to tell you.
Yes.
And what you tell me is based on what? On a class in Harvard? Have you seen people through detox programs? Have you witnessed people, hundreds or thousands of people doing these things? No, so then don't opine.
Correct. And I think, we're at this crisis in the Western world, and technological innovation has grown exponentially, making our lives extremely comfortable in some ways. But we weren't designed to be comfortable, right?
And our physiology works best when going through all kinds of levels of comfort.
Yes.
So you become nimble, right? Instead of stiff.
Yes.
Our metabolism is stiff. And that's why people have hypoglycemia when they don't eat for half an hour, right? Nothing's going to happen to you. You need more flexibility in your metabolism. You need to have periods in which your digestive system is not doing anything, and then periods in which it is digesting, right? But we don't. We live the same temperature, the same humidity, we fuddle with our atmosphere to make it comfortable, and therefore our body is suffering.
How do you view these two things? And I think they're probably concordant, and that is your clients, who comes to you, and is that usually triggered with crisis, and is really our representation of crisis? Maybe we should look at the Kaishu script in China and Japan, where they write crisis and opportunity within the same two levels. Do most people come to you in a state of crisis?
They used to, right?
Right.
But I run intensive care units, so
it's as big as the crisis as it gets.
there is no more crisis than that.
That's right.
So, but now I went almost all the other way, right? To preventing those crises and teaching people. So it's a different game altogether, right? Because here you're there and you're poking them and putting things and saving their lives minute to minute, right? Here, they don't need to do anything unless they want to.
Right.
So you have to inspire them. You have to, say. And the good thing is this: you get enough good results that people are going to come to want those results. And then I'm going to, at the entrance, I want to say, hey, listen, you're only allowed if you're going to do what I tell you. If not, don't make me waste my time. Don't waste your time. I'll give you a couple other doctors to go to. So then I start pre-selecting and then I know that most of the people that come to me are ready to do something. Because you're right. People don't do anything until they get the eviction notice, right?
The eviction notice. That's so poetically said. So where can people find about your program, how to get at it, and engage in this?
So cleanprogram.com is the website for my company. Then I'm on Instagram, Dr. Alejandro Junger. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. I've written 4 books, translated to 26 languages, Clean Gut, Clean Eats, and Clean 7.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have 50 million questions. I hope we get to hang out again.
Thank you for inviting me. I would love to hang out with you.
Let's do it.
And maybe the next time you come for a smoothie in my house.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip. Turn cultured foods into superfoods. Raw fermented foods like sauerkraut and low sugar, live yogurt can be good for you, but rarely have enough of the right probiotic strains for therapeutic benefit. So here's a way that you can turn them into superfoods. What I do is I get some raw sauerkraut or a healthy yogurt. Ideally, it's grass-fed or coconut-based, and you can empty 3 caps of P3OM into a container and mix it up thoroughly. Leave it at room temperature for a couple of hours before putting it back into the fridge. And what's going to happen is these probiotic levels will be multiplied. In fact, it doubles every 20 minutes. And then what you're going to get is you're going to have a food with strong proteolytic activity. To learn more about P3OM and why its patented strains make it the strongest probiotic available, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.